The death rate from Nipah can range from 73% to 91%. The initial symptoms are fever, body ache, headache, but in people who develop brain infection after that, they may get seizures or epilepsy, confusion, paralysis or coma. The Nipah virus circulates freely among bats and they don't seem to die from it. But when human beings come into contact with bats, either directly or indirectly, the virus may accidentally jump into man. The virus can cause a severe form of brain infection or a pneumonia, both of which carry a very high fatality rate. The death rate from Nipah can range from 73% to 91%. The initial symptoms are fever, body ache, headache, but in people who develop brain infection after that, they may get seizures or epilepsy, confusion, paralysis or coma. The symptoms are similar to other types of brain infection caused by other viruses. Sometimes the diagnosis of Nipah can be missed because it is not specifically tested for. The problem with Nipah is that it can also spread from patient to patient. So it's extremely important to identify the first patient who develops the infection. Unfortunately, in many cases, the first patient is either very ill or may have died by the time the diagnosis is ascertained, which means this person may have passed on this virus to other people. And these other people, if they develop symptoms like cough, vomiting, or seizures and get admitted to a hospital, sometimes people who treat this person, like nurses or doctors or other hospital staff, may also get infected. Other caregivers at the patient's home who tend to the patient's body fluids can also get infected. Therefore, it is extremely important, 1, to make an early diagnosis, 2, to isolate a patient, and 3, to treat the patient with standard precautions such as masks and gloves. Even more important is to track the contacts of these patients, because Nipah virus can jump from person to person and can cause a potentially fatal infection, which is why contact tracing is of great value in limiting the size of the outbreak. Fortunately, unlike COVID, Nipah does not have the ability to spread fast from person to person. Typically, it occurs through very close bodily contact or by handling the person's body fluids or exposure to the person's body fluids. Unfortunately, Nipah virus has no effective antiviral treatment or vaccine that are available. Therefore, the treatment measures are only supportive, and it is extremely important to limit the size of the outbreak, prevent the virus from spreading far and wide to many people. This is why contact tracing is so valuable. Nipah is one of several viruses that may accidentally jump from animals to man, and this category of disease is called a zoonosis. A common zoonosis that we are all familiar with is rabies. It commonly circulates in wild foxes that may come into contact with dogs while searching for food.
It's 75 times deadlier than COVID-19, killing at least half of its victims, and now a top UK scientist has warned it's one of the world's next pandemic threats. So what is the Nipah virus, and how worried should we be about it? It may seem a little early to be talking about the next pandemic, but one lesson the world has certainly learned the hard way since early 2020 is that it's always best to expect the unexpected. One UK scientist with a keen eye for possible health disasters is Professor Dame Sarah Gilbert, creator of the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine. She recently said that one of the world's next pandemic threats could reside in the deadly Nipah virus. Speaking at the Cheltenham Literature Festival, Professor Gilbert said that should the Nipah virus mutate into a variant that spreads more easily, in the same way that the coronavirus has evolved into the more infectious Delta variant, then the world would be facing a highly transmissible virus with a 50% fatality rate. A scary thought indeed. It's not just Professor Gilbert feeling anxious about the Nipah virus's destructive credentials. The US Centre for Disease Control and Prevention warns it has the potential to cause a pandemic. It's in the top 10 priority diseases that the World Health Organization has identified as potential sources of future epidemics. And scientists have previously told The Sun Nipah could absolutely be the cause of a new pandemic. So what is it? Nipah is one of a family of viruses carried naturally by several species of fruit bat across southern Asia and Australasia. It causes respiratory infection and brain damage and has a mortality rate in humans of up to 75%. Nipah virus infection begins with flu-like symptoms, including headache, fever, nausea, vomiting, and dizziness. It also causes the brain to swell, which can be fatal. Patients experience confusion and persistent drowsiness, and in severe cases can fall into a coma within 48 hours. There is currently no vaccine, although work to develop one is ongoing. In fact, Nipah is one of several diseases Professor Sarah Gilbert was working on developing a vaccine for until COVID-19 struck. Now, she says that work has gone backwards, and without adequate funding to develop a jab for it, the threat of a deadly outbreak of the Nipah virus remains. So far, outbreaks in humans of the virus have remained relatively small, but deadly nonetheless. In 1998, an outbreak in Port Dickson, Malaysia, killed 100 people out of 300 who were known to be infected. The outbreak was traced back to a farm, where it is believed pigs ate fruit that fell from the trees where infected bats had been feeding. The sick pigs then spread the disease to their handlers. More recently, in India, public health authorities have been working hard to trace the origins of an infection which killed a 12-year-old boy in the Kerala region. Police put a 2-mile cordon in place around the child's home while health officials attempted to trace and isolate any people he had been in contact with. On this occasion, it appears the virus has been successfully contained. But every opportunity Nipah gets to infect humans presents a possibility of it mutating. And if one of those changes makes it better at passing through humans, the consequences could be dire.